ma'am.
Yes, Senator Orrick, you talked about real solutions and real leadership. With all due respect, you are the leadership of this state. Why have we gotten to this point that now we're in crisis mode? Why have we gotten to this point that now something must be done? This is not a new problem. This is something that's been developing. You guys are the leadership. What's gone wrong so far?
I would agree that this is a problem that's been in the making for some time. We have been, for 7 years, pointing out in every way possible that tax cuts to education were going on when we had a robust budget. We would come, and every year the governor would bring a budget that then the House and Senate leadership would approve, and that budget would put cuts in education to our basic funding formulas. That then pushed it down on the school boards. That's just one example of how educational systems had to take hits or have taxes raised at home by their school boards. I have to say it is a question of leadership. I'm not driving this boat. We have a governor, we have a speaker, we have a conference committee on the budget, we have a lieutenant governor, and the question I think should be laid to them. Why would they not let a bill languish that would collect money from tax cheats who are failing to turn in their sales tax that they've collected from the public? Why would they not pass that bill? It's a wonderful question. And you have to raise the possibility that in politics, special interests know how to get their needs tended to. Why would we see blocked year after year the tobacco tax bill? How is it that we're at the as a state paying our gas tax is the second lowest in the nation? Only Alaska has a gas tax lower than ours. Why are those things happening? It's a question of leadership. And we're facing statewide elections this year. All of us will go home and run for our seats. We will be electing a new governor and a new lieutenant governor. And the voters of Georgia, I think, need to make some tough decisions and look with very clear eyes at whether the policies and the budget of this state at this point in time have been serving the needs of Georgians or looking after the interest of a few special interests. That's a genuine question worth asking and worth answering.
A follow-up question, if you will. You mentioned special interest groups, which take the flip side of that, and you are the Working Families Caucus, which tells me working families aren't a special interest group, and it is their interests which are not being addressed here in Atlanta. How do we, so what are working families supposed to do? Are they supposed to come up and get a badge and walk among the halls of this wonderful building across the street? How do you guys adequately represent the working families?
We go home,
special interest groups.
We go home every weekend, and some of us go home nightly. I live a few miles from the Capitol. I was with residents of Grant Park 2 nights ago. I was with residents we'll be with residents of Capitol View this evening. All of us are home on the weekends. We're in our houses of worship and in our community organizations and in the local activities that we all go back to, our families, our friends, our relatives, and the networks and the voters that send us here. That is the vast majority of this state. And as I said when I began our press conference, we work to be the voice of those families and of those working people, those people who do not have a high-paid lobbyist up here looking out for their interests. Anybody that's been on the Ways and Means Committee has seen for years. Representative Flood and I both served in the House on that committee. But you see the special interests come in and they go in the back door and they go in the private offices of a few powerful legislators, and there's something new put in the tax code. We could tell tales about that all day long, but
we got film.
Right, and many of us voted against those things when they were brought to the floor and fought against them in committee. But there's too much money in politics, and the ability of special interests to come down here and get tax breaks is documented and legendary, and that's why we support SB 206, which is stuck in House rules right now. The House leadership needs to be asked.
It's stuck in House rules?
Stuck in House rules. We passed it unanimously in the Senate. No, it moved into House rules during this session.
Okay.
Moved out of committee and into House rules. And House leadership should be called upon to answer the question, What's wrong with Senate Bill 206, which would provide accountability, turn on the lights, bring sunshine and transparency to the process to see who's getting the special tax cuts, how much money are we foregoing in our state budget by giving them tax cuts, and what are they doing in exchange for a tax cut when everybody else is paying taxes?
One final question, I'll leave you guys alone. The temporary increase on tax to the state's highest earners, do we have an estimate on how much that brought into Oregon and what that would do here in Georgia? Did she leave?
She left. We don't know the estimates in Oregon or in other states. We know that for Georgia, it would generate $225 million per year.
Okay.
If we started it at $400 million and above, $400,000
$400,000
and above. North Carolina, when they enacted their tax surcharge, started at $160,000, so much lower than we're projecting. And then they had a 1% surcharge at $160,000, and then a 3% surcharge at I think $300,000.
Then they were raising considerable funds for their state budget.
Well, they were trying to raise $4 billion, and they came up with a very comprehensive, balanced approach, both in terms of budget cuts and new revenue sources. And we're doing the same thing: budget cuts, revenue sources, and furthermore, collecting the revenue that you and I are already paying.